Hello again. Still Anna, still from Shunned for Good Reason, still going over cults this week, as with most weeks. But right now I wanted to hop on and give you a very quick overview of what makes a cult dangerous. We are going to be touching on cult versus death cult in the podcast this week. So I wanted to give a very, very brief overview of what can make cults dangerous. And this is what makes the difference between a very peaceful community and a Branch Davidians, David Koresh, Jonestown sort of a situation. And to be very frank, a cult is always dangerous. Like, they don't always have a shootout, there's not always a mass murder, but every cult, and you can go to prior videos or to the podcast for a definition of what a cult actually is. But every cult believes in power, and the power of God is manifested through the leaders of this cult. That in itself is dangerous because it gives one person or a group, an oligarchy, if you will, of people, control over the lives, the thoughts, the finances, and the sexuality of other humans, which in itself is a problem because it's almost impossible that that will happen without someone taking advantage of it. Another thing that makes cults dangerous is the social dynamics of a cult. When you have people with that much power over your life, if you have people who are dictating what your religion is and whether or not you are truly religious and whether or not you're getting it right, that gives them the power over you to either up your social status or lower your social status. So your entire family life, your social life, everything about it is controlled by these people and by what they say, your holy texts say, or your prophets say. And those can go either way. You may have prophets, you may have holy texts, you may have both. In my case, we did have both. Off and on. It just depends on which sect of which religion of which cult you're in as to whether or not you have this and which one is important at the time. The other way that cults are always dangerous is that they have to have control over your sexuality. That doesn't mean that there is going to be mass rapes or use of minors in an inappropriate way necessarily. But it does mean that everything about your sexuality, sexual expression, marriage, etc. is not truly your own. It is at the mercy of this society, at the mercy of how these scriptures or prophets' teachings are being determined within your own particular version of the cult. These are things that make everything dangerous. If someone has power over you, power over your social standing, and power over your sexuality, it can be a problem, like very quickly. It's really hard for someone else to take control over that without it becoming incredibly problematic. With that being said, not every cult is violent. Some of them are. When we think of cult, often what we're thinking of is the Branch Davidians or Jonestown. Not every cult is like that. Some of them are incredibly peaceful. But you're going to find a cult becomes violent when they're afraid. And we're seeing a lot of that right now. Whether this fear is manufactured or real, we don't necessarily know. Like, media gives us a lot of very biased opinions on these sort of things. But these cults are getting the same biases that we are in the media, but it's being interpreted to them in an incredibly specific way. So in the cults that I grew up in, there was a huge emphasis on the end times. We did not think that we were going to live for very long, which means your life on earth is very limited. You have to do very specific things with it, but in the end, it doesn't really matter. You have to fear that somebody is trying to take your life, but your life is not really the most important thing here. The afterlife is the important thing here. So when you get to that point of my life doesn't matter, the afterlife matters, and someone's being violent against me and I'm scared, God is bringing in the end times, there's no reason for you not to become violent when you feel like your power, your way of life, your religion is being threatened by a specific group or by society at large. And that's when you become violent, because you don't have any reason to not become violent. If these people are inevitably, going back to Calvinism, if these people have not been chosen by God, their lives don't necessarily matter as much as yours. You're the one who's supposed to fulfill this mission of God. And if God's mission for you is either to live holy or to die a martyr, either one of those are equally important. And usually the dying a martyr would be way more effective to society at large, which fulfills your mission of spreading the faith to the most amount of people possible. So when you think the end times are coming soon, when you think someone is attacking you, why would you not become violent? Second Amendment, we've got our guns. Second Amendment, they've got their guns. They're going to come at us because they hate us, because we're right, because God has chosen us. There's no reason not to become violent. It's fear.